If you've gone down that YouTube rabbit hole of backpacking and hiking videos, then you've probably heard people talk about the 10 essentials. But what are the 10 essentials, and do they really matter in this modern day and age of hiking? Well, the essentials are pretty basic. It's navigation, illumination, sun protection, first aid, repair and tools, fire, shelter, food, water, and clothing. Sounds simple, and it actually is pretty simple. But the real question is, what does that mean with the modern conveniences and technology that we have in today's hiking world? Are the 10 essentials the same as what they used to be when they first put the list together in the 30s? Or have we migrated to more evolved and sophisticated features? Well, let's go find a place to sit down. I'll pull off the pack, we'll pull out all my gear, I'll show you what I'm packing for my 10 essentials on a hike, and we'll get into the necessity and the luxury items instead. So the 10 essentials was a list that was actually created by the Seattle Mountaineers back in the early 1930s. This was a list of the essential items that they thought every one of their members or anybody headed out into the backcountry should ensure they always have with them. These cover every basic functional item that you could need in the case of an emergency. It does not cover any creature comforts. It doesn't cover any essentials for hygiene or sanitary issues. It's just the basic functional materials in the event that you had to spend an extra night or two unprepared. But what does that mean for the modern day hike? So let's jump right into it. The first item in the 10 essentials is navigation. Navigation in its truest form is the art of figuring out where you are and where you need to get to. And the simplest and most effective way of doing that is with a compass and a map. That is the root of navigation. Use your compass, use your map, figure out where you are and where you need to get to. Now, maps could be tricky, right? You can download a map and print it off, or you can save a map. So I have been out here by myself all day. Have not seen a single person. Now that I'm trying to record this, I've had 3 sets of hikers walk by. It's a little embarrassing when they see you talking to yourself in the middle of the woods. Okay, so where were we? We're talking about navigation. I like to just print off a paper map. I stick it in a waterproof bag in my pack and I call it good. Truth be told, I very rarely actually look at the map. For the most part, I'm doing what almost every modern day hiker does. And I'm relying on my maps on my cell phone. A lot of folks use a GPS. I just use my cell phone in an app-based system that lets me download the maps and save it on an offline function. Now, the one thing I would caution with using your cell phone as your only source of navigation, what happens if your battery dies or if you drop your phone and it breaks? I highly recommend you go back to the old school method, keep a compass, keep a paper map in your bag, and make sure you know how to use it before you head out there. Because the last thing you want to have to do is learn how to use a compass when you're on the trail. Put a little bit of time and research into it and go down another YouTube rabbit hole of how to read a compass. So the next item on the list is illumination, and that's exactly what it sounds like. You need some way of having light if you're trapped out there in the dark. You don't want to be out on trail after the sun goes down and have no way to find the path in front of you. Or if you're trapped and alone and you need to signal for help, a light is a great way of getting people's attention. Now, there are some basic things you can carry. Flashlight, headlamp, the light on your cell phone, all good options. I like to keep just a basic headlamp with me. This is something I picked up years ago at Harbor Freight. Right, there are some very expensive, very fancy ultralight headlamps out there. Or you can go to Harbor Freight for 10 bucks and pick up something that is pretty simple. It has white, it has red, it has everything you need. Another caveat though is if you're relying on batteries, make sure you have a way to either recharge the headlamp or you have a spare set of batteries with you. Again, you don't want to run out of batteries or run out of power and be trapped out there without a way of getting a hold of your light. The third item on our list, sun protection. You want to find a way to protect yourself from the harmful sunlight. Bring a hat, bring a pair of sunglasses, maybe a long sleeve shirt. I would highly recommend avoiding sunblock lotions and sprays because those draw the bugs to you really quick. And the last thing you want to do is be a bug magnet when you're out there. So keep it simple, keep it basic. Hat, sunglasses, and you're good to go. So the fourth item on the list First aid. First aid is critical even if you're out there just for a couple of hours on the trail. But of course it's always on the bottom of my pack because I hope to never have to use it. The idea behind first aid is you want to make sure you have the essential items to help in the event of a cut or a break or an injury on the trail. And first aid can be as complex or as simple as you want it to be. I try and keep mine pretty simple. What I always have with me, again, even on just an afternoon hike, is a 1-gallon Ziploc bag full of all my essential emergency items. And this doesn't just include first aid, but we're going to talk about first aid in this one. So in here, I've got just a very basic pocket first aid kit. It's got some ibuprofen, some aspirin, some Band-Aids. I believe there's some sutures in here, just some simple things. Then I've always added in a little bit of Leukotape. Leukotape is great for fixing those blisters that you might get on an extended hike. If you're not familiar with Leukotape, think of it as what duct tape is to MacGyver. Leukotape is that for a hiker. But a first aid kit is an essential must. You can build out your own personalized kit, or you can just pick up a store-bought one. That's up to you. Falling off my rock. So the next essential item is a repair kit and tools. So if you're overnight camping and you've got a tent or a hammock, you might want to have a way of repairing that if it has a leak in the middle of the night and water starts coming in, or if you have an air mattress and it's losing air. So each item that you have is going to have dedicated repair parts and tools that you need to bring with you. So pack accordingly. For an afternoon hike, for a repair kit, again, all you really need is a little bit of that Leukotape and a pocket knife. Now, pocket knives can be pretty simple, right? I just keep a simple standard one in my pocket. It works great for me. There has been a lot of controversy lately around knives and hiking. For our bushcraft friends out there, they love a nice, solid, fixed blade knife that can be used as a major tool. For our ultralight hikers, just a tiny little Swiss Army knife seems to be the perfect fit for them. I like to do a lot of cooking on my trips, so a little bit bigger blade is perfect for what my needs are. But make sure you have some kind of a repair kit and tools to fix whatever might break while you're out there. Got a squirrel yelling at me. The next item on the list is fire. Even if you don't plan on doing any campfire cooking, it might be a critical item for your survival if you get trapped out there in the elements and you need to stay warm. Fire is a fantastic tool when used correctly. And it's very simple. You can carry a lighter with you. You can carry a flint and steel. Make sure you practice with these because it takes a little bit of practice to get to know how to use it. I like to also keep a solid fuel tab with me. These are very simple. They burn for about 15 minutes and they're really easy to light, even if it's pouring down rain. Make sure you have some form of fire starting material and you have the knowledge of how to use it. Next up on the list is shelter. You want to be able to have an emergency shelter should the need arise. Now, if you're backpacking and spending the night in the woods, you've already got this covered. You've got your tent or you've got a tarp with you. If you're cowboy camping, well, that's a different issue entirely. We'll get into that in a totally different video. But for now, let's talk about those emergency shelters for hiking. Even though you're out there on a day hike and you plan on getting back to your car before the sun goes down, emergencies could happen where you might need to have a shelter. You never know when you're going to get in a flash storm or an emergency where you just can't get out before the sun goes down and you have to hunker down for the night. Simple fix for that is an emergency blanket. These are the simple foil blankets that you see first responders have, and they wrap around you. It's just a nice foil blanket. It helps radiate your body heat and protect you from the elements. You can pick them up for a couple of dollars. Keep them in that Ziploc bag. You'll never know it's there, but boy, will you be glad if you ever have to use it, that you packed it in there. All right, let's talk about food. My favorite subject. As you guys know, I love to eat and I love to cook when I'm out on a hike. But that's not necessarily for everybody. What you do want to do is make sure you have enough food for whatever type of hiking, camping you're doing. And always plan for one extra meal. What I mean by that is if you're planning on doing a one-night stay in the woods, pack for 2 nights. If you're planning on a day hike, pack an emergency snack. Make sure you've got an extra couple of protein bars or granola bars in the event you spend a few more hours or even an extra day on the trail that wasn't planned. Keep it simple, keep it basic. You don't need to overthink this. Just make sure you have enough food and then a little bit in reserve. The reality is most of us could probably stand to miss a meal or two, right? Food is not as critically essential as some other items, but it is good to have what you need. It's probably not going to hurt you if you miss dinner. That brings us right into our next one, which is water, right? Water is one of those things that you cannot live without. Food, yes, you could go a couple of days, maybe even a week without eating. But water, depending on what your fatigue level is, water could wear you out, exhaust you, and even cause you to die within 2 or 3 days. Don't ever let it get to that. You should always have enough water with you for whatever your hike is, and make sure you have a way to purify or filter water when you're on your trail. Now, there are some great filters out there, which I'll leave a link for a video on filter options. But make sure you have something to purify the water if there is a fresh water source near you. If you are in an area where there is no water, then make sure you pack enough water for an extra person. And that brings us right down to the last one, which is clothing. Now, clothing is kind of a controversial or subjective thing as well. You'll notice a lot of modern day hikers are limiting what they bring on the trail. They're trying to simplify it and wear the same clothes multiple days. I'm absolutely good with that one. I do not bring a change of clothes for every day I'm out there on the trail. But what I do always make sure I have is emergency clothes with me. I make sure I've got a puffy jacket, because hiking here in Washington, even on a beautiful 80-degree day, it could rapidly drop into the 40s. And if you're caught off guard, whoa! I caught the phone. Well, and that, folks, is how you know that I have a budget of $0 for making these videos. My cell phone is propped up on a little selfie stick tripod. So anyways, I always have a puffy jacket, and then I make sure I've got some kind of a lightweight base layer and rain gear, right? A raincoat, to me, is probably one of the most essential items you could ever have with you when you're hiking in Washington, right? Again, it's been a beautiful sunny day today. It's rained on me twice, and it's forecasted to just dump later on this afternoon. So I want to make sure I have all the gear I need. Bring some spare clothes with you. Don't overthink it. Just make sure you have enough to stay warm, stay dry, and stay safe. So we started this conversation today with, are the 10 essentials that were written down in the 1930s still relevant to the modern day hiker and backpacker? Yes, technology has advanced tremendously, and it's become a lot safer for us and a lot more convenient for the modern day hiker. But what remains the same is the critical adherence to being as safe and sound as we possibly can anytime we're out on an outdoor adventure. Use these 10 essential items as a baseline list to make sure you have what you need in the event of an emergency. And folks, I hope that takes some of the mystery out of it and gives you a little bit more courage to get out there and head out on your next adventure. So until next time, folks, I hope to see you out there on the trail soon. Let's go for a walk.